It seems today that all you see is violence in movies and sex on TV. But where are those good old-fashioned values of which we used to rely? It's close, but not what we're talking about today. Family Guy, a hysterical series that came from the mind of the second man with a voice I would steal in a heartbeat, Seth MacFarlane. Every night when I was a wee little brown boy, I made sure to end all my days watching the Griffin family and all of their bizarre shenanigans. At least all I could watch before my mom came in and yelled at me for staying up so late. Yeah, she hated me watching Family Guy, and looking back, I can't really blame her. Even though I knew what it was about, some scenes, mainly the blood and violence, were a bit too much for old Sheltered Eye could handle, but even so, I couldn't stop watching. For every shocking moment that kept me up at night, there were dozens of jokes that I still quote to this day. Bye, 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 bye. I smell death on you. Now. You better watch who you call a child, Lois, because if I'm a child, do you know what that makes you? A pedophile. And I'll be damned if I'm gonna stand here and be lectured by a pervert. Yes, I quote that last one a lot, and yes, I giggle every time I do it. Not to mention all the iconic episodes that came from this collection of raunchy tales. Death is a Bitch is a great one. Anything with Norm Macdonald is. Pete Tart is such a wild 20 minutes, but always makes me laugh. And Blue Harvest, I feel like that one can speak for itself. Although, there is a series in the series that mainly follows the two family members and are considered one of, if not the best of what the franchise has to offer. And you already know what it is. The Road 2 episodes are a series of adventures that follow Stewie and Brian as they travel around the world, time, and even other dimensions. Things seem to wrap up with each installment, except for the last two, but we don't need to bring those up. But we can't really forget about how this line of specials first started. Road to Rhode Island. In retrospect, it's a little jarring to see that a collection that gave us elf-eating flying reindeers and a world ruled by dogs began so simple. Just a baby and a dog going on a cross-county journey to get back home, all while getting a rather personal tale of abandonment. Oh yeah, there's also a interesting Peter and Lois segment. We'll also get to that. It's always important to remember the roots of everything, especially the great things. So, let's start from the beginning of the beginning. Instead of the classic intro, here we get a brand new one for the occasion. Man, you can just tell that even though this was their first time doing this, they knew they were doing something special. The music alone for this prelude is fantastic, which shouldn't really be much of a surprise. Seth has always been a fan of Sinatra-style music, and that loud jazz can be heard clearly and well here, and much later on in that scene. The images on the intro are also pretty great. They're not that detailed, but there is still a lot of expression on them, especially with Brian and Stewie. That was always something I missed about old Family Guy, how free the characters moved. They were stiff most of the time, considering the low budget, but still somehow twisted and turned more ways than they do in modern times. In these fun images, we get all the people who worked on it, along with their title. MacFarlane is obviously there as creator, developer, and executive producer, but we also have producers Sherry Gunther, writer Gary Janetti, I hope I said that right, and director Dan Puppenmeyer? The Dan Puppenmeyer? Creator of the after-school cartoon Phineas and Ferb? Oh man, that was my shit back then! I feel like this shouldn't really be much of a surprise since he worked on a bunch of other classic anime series before making his own. But still, it's so damn jolting to see his name on an adult animated show, and on Family Guy on top of that. And from the looks of it, this wasn't the only roadshow he worked on. Anyways, moving on. Back to the episode, we open on a farm in Austin, Texas, 7 years ago. And in the farm, there's a puppy mill, where we find little baby Brian, who is a lot more accurate than you think. Seriously, it's just the Brian that we know about, but tiny and no collar. It's really funny and cute hearing this puppy have the same deep voice that he'll always have.
Hey, how's the flow today?
Unfortunately, baby Brian won't know about the flow today because he is taken away, as his mother does nothing. This then shows that this was all present Brian recounting the traumatic day that he was taken away from his biological family. He's telling all of this to his therapist, Dr. Bruce Kaplan. This guy is such an underutilized character. He only showed up in 3 episodes, but he played his role as a professional man of psychology really well. Considering his role to Brian and where MacFarlane's persona is in modern times, I feel like the doc needs him now more than ever, although I'm not sure if that Bruce can help with this particular Brian anymore. Do therapists help with douchiness? Anyways, Bruce suggests that Brian has abandonment issues, and the best solution is for Brian to find and confront his mother. However, Brian is unwilling, leading to a desperate distraction that made me giggle a tiny bit.
Well, yeah, sort of lost, right? Yeah, I turned out great. Huh? Am I right? Right? Yeah. Yeah, you bet your ass I'm right. You want to arm wrestle? Come on, right now. Come on.
Brian, have you been drinking?
No.
Now forward back home, everyone's at the kitchen, and here we get the first cutaway of the episode, and it's a pretty funny one.
We'll be closing in 2 minutes.
Stupid. It's so stupid, but I love it so much. The only member who isn't here is Stewie, and that's because he's visiting Lois's parents, which Brian insists he brings back on his own in order to clear his head. But beforehand, here comes the B-plot with Lois buying a relationship video for her and Peter. we know what it is. It's not shown yet, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone who doesn't. But all I want to say right now is, what kind of infomercial did Lois watch that made her get that tape? Like, what did she watch that made her think, yeah, this is a good idea. This is a regular video for me and Peter. Back to the boys. It's the airport, and Brian is drinking himself stupid at the bar in there. Brian has always been known as a character who likes to drink his sauce here and there, but it's already been referenced twice here that he's been drinking a bit more than usual lately. One failed flirtation later, and we get the start of the conflict, Stewie losing the luggage, which contained the plane tickets, or, more accurately, Rupert losing them, or at least what Stewie likes to believe. This was another slight difference between early Family Guy, Stewie and Rupert's relationship. Here, it's like the Teddy is an incompetent goon that fails his master constantly, which would fit well with the evil genius baby Stu was at the time. Nowadays, Rupert is more of a romantic partner, which fits the gay baby thing Stewie is better remembered now for. The only consistent thing that hasn't changed over the years is that this relationship is all part of Stewie's imagination, and that is honestly why the change doesn't really matter much to me. It's all in the kid's head, so going from a servant to a boyfriend with a ripped body makes sense. Or as much as that sentence I just said allows. The two can't get on board, so they must stay at a hotel for the night. The easiest solution is tried by calling home, but Brian is blacked out and Stewie being a little infant, the only solution is for them to wait till tomorrow. Speaking of home, Peter is watching the tape and, that scene is played. I'm not gonna risk showing it, I don't know what YouTube allows nowadays, but again, I'll ask one more time, what infomercial did Lois watch for this tape? Seriously, I'm genuinely asking, was this like a thing back then? Spicy videos disguised as marriage counseling? Honestly, I wouldn't even be that shocked. The world has been providing this kind of content in less weird ways. Anyways, the credit card gets declined and we get a good moment of a lot of physical humor before the duo escapes. We then get some really funny dialogue over which car they should take. I just love moments like this where even during intense chases, the characters stop to have a normal ass conversation with each other, and Family Guy does this way more than any other show that I've seen. It's essentially a staple for the series and one that doesn't fail to make me laugh most of the time.
We go on hotwire it. Hotwire? I don't even pump my own gas.
What pompous ass doesn't pump their own gas? They get away, and knowing how unbelievably screwed he is, Brian instead lies to Lois about what happened and continue on foot. As for the B-plot,
Ain't nobody you so.
Get out! This is a package for the man!
that's all. Brian and Stewie find a farm where they can use the plane there to get back home. And here we have a moment where a human adult character acknowledges that these two are a dog and a baby. This was a solid joke, but these always make me wonder about other previous moments. Was the motel owner also aware that he gave a room to a baby and a drunk talking pet? How about that lady at the bar and all the women interested in Brian? Did they all seriously want to a dog? I know, it's a cartoon, don't think about it too hard, but they can't make jokes like this and not expect people to wonder what you just presented. Anyways, how does the plane thing go? With that going south, the two hitchhike a truck and things go smoothly from here. There is no chase, no conflict, we even get another memorable joke.
Hola. Me llamo es Brian.
That was pretty good. But actually, when you said me llamo es Brian, you don't need the ace. Just me llamo Brian.
Oh, you speak English.
No, just that first speech and this one explaining it.
You're kidding, right?
Okay?
However, Brian notices that they are now in Austin, the same place he was born. Taking this as a sign from fate, he decides to go to the farm and face his issues head on. And this wasn't a random callback from the start either. As stated before, Brian's drinking in this episode has been a lot worse than usual. He drinks in the morning, essentially lost their plane tickets by being at the bar. I know that Stewie was the one who actually did it, but he was the one who left their belongings in the hands of a baby. And when they reached the farm with the plane, he desperately tried connecting it all into possibly getting a drink. The show wanted to really emphasize this problem of his, and it's clearly linked back to his trauma of being snatched away from his family. He's escaping that clear issue of his by getting his hands on any booze he can get. Matter of fact, this whole thing started because Brian wanted to pick up Stewie so that he wouldn't have to worry about whether he should face his mother. All this talking dog has been doing is hiding and delaying the one thing he needs to do to help himself. But now, only being a couple miles away from it, Brian has no choice but to face it. And face it he does. Like, immediately. They get to the farm and I really love this scene where Brian looks at the puppy mill as he walks forward to the house. It's subtle, but it still adds a lot to how he's feeling now that he's actually here. They meet with the farmer, Luke.
Sorry, son, lots of dogs been born here. Refresh my memory. Which one were you again?
I was the one who could talk.
Brian, come on in.
After that, we get the unfortunate news that Brian's mother had recently passed, which is a complete shudder to him. Although, Luke does make it clear that she did in fact love all of her children, which is why they were all given away, to make sure they lived a good life. Brian realizes that this must be true since he does live a good life with the Griffins. Although technically he lived a homeless life, watching car windows, but we can just ignore that to keep things heartfelt. It's a nice moment because even though he never got to meet his mother, you get the sense that it was genuine and it gives Brian closure to something he kept denying for so long. And notice that after this, there are no more drinking jokes throughout the rest of the episode, giving a positive, although coincidentally quick, resolution to the issue of the character. However, despite what he's told, Brian still had the opportunity to see his mother, but not like buried outside or anything like that. Instead, it's a rather very dark way.
Well, we love Biscuit so much, we wanted to keep her with us always. So we had her stuffed.
Taxidermy is a very real thing, and it's rather, let's just say, controversial. But through the eyes of Brian, a dog, it's just f***ed up, but there's no other way to put it. Obviously not wanting to leave her like this, Brian and Stewie take her away and bury her outside so she can finally, truly rest. Although the situation isn't humorous, Stewie throughout the whole thing did make me chuckle. Brian too, but that was less intentional, just seeing how distraught he was. I also really like this slow turn from him, it's great. We get a conclusion to the B-plot with Lois finding out what the tapes really are and confronting Peter about it. But instead of grilling him, she plays along with the fantasy, being the eye candy for her husband. It's an oddly wholesome solution, at least for these two. I keep forgetting that this marriage wasn't always so miserable to watch and they actually loved each other. Just a glimpse of what these two used to be early on, a pair of horn dogs that couldn't live without each other. After laying the mother to rest, Brian and Stewie take a train back home, and hey, Brian technically made his lie to Lois true.
Stewie and I traded in our plane tickets for train tickets. Yeah, apparently you can do that.
I honestly can't tell if that was intentional or not, but it's a nice detail regardless. Brian thanks Stewie for following through with all of this, and the kid even admits he had some fun. I got some things to say about this, but not right now. Right now, we gotta talk about the thing that we've all been waiting for. That is all I could play, but honestly I don't feel like I have to. You all know this song, it's still one of the best in the entire series. Now, I am not a music expert, but if there's one thing I know about tunes, is that Seth loves his old classics. Whether it's jazz or pop, the man enjoys his theatrical music. This one specifically is a parody of the song from the Bob Hope and Bing Crosby film Road to Morocco. Actually, I'm pretty sure a lot of the Road 2s were inspired by these series of movies, but I feel like this one is the most obvious about it. The song is fantastic. Like I said, I am not a music expert, but the people behind this definitely are. The tunes, lyric, and rhyming, I never get tired of it, no matter how much I watch it. And it's not just the music, the visuals are also pretty great. The animation isn't that different from how it usually is, but it's taken up by such a small amount that you can absolutely notice it. The poses are especially amazing. There are so many shots with so much expression to them, it really elevates the entire scene. And do I even need to bring up McFarlane's singing? Here he is voicing two different characters with varying tones, and yet he's hitting both of them. Yeah, Brian's voice is just Seth's, but hey, that just makes it come out more naturally. That last hit at the end encapsulates everything. From the singing, music, to the animation, it's all at its peak. I've heard people say that they only ever watched this episode just to see the song, and I honestly can't blame them. It's incredible and it never gets old. At last, the two finally get home, with everything seeming to be well. There really isn't much of note to speak about in this final scene. Stewie doesn't rat Brian out for everything that's happened, and he even gets a small favor in return. The only thing I feel like pointing out here is that Chris actually gets the final line in this whole thing. Yeah, Chris of all characters gets the final say on this. It's such an odd thing to talk about that I couldn't help but laugh every time I saw it. So weird.
Kitty?
Get out of my head! Get out of my head!
And that was Road to Rhode Island. Overall, yeah, still a great episode. Just by the unique intro alone, you could tell that the team behind this gave it their all, and it was executed fantastically because of it. Even though Family Guy at this point very much cemented itself as a show that can do anything, they literally brought death on the show in season 2. They still stuck with situations you expect in a family sitcom. But this was far more different than anything they have done by then. Spending a majority of the time on just two characters rather than the entire group and having them go through completely new environments. It sounded like a risky move to make, but not only were Brian and Stewie both some of the most popular characters in the series by this point, still are, but the chemistry between the two had a lot of potential, and this was shown a few times in previous episodes and quick bits. I would say the writers had confidence in making a 20-minute episode on just these two, but the Lois and Peter segment kind of disproves that. That brings me to the few cons I had with this episode. Look, no classic is perfect, but fortunately I only had two gripes with this one. The first is, as I stated, the Lois and Peter subplot. It was a funny B story and I liked how it was resolved, but I feel like this could have been used as a B plot for any other Family Guy episode. I honestly think they could have replaced it with another subplot that was more in line with the special's element or theme, or maybe just have the whole thing be about Brian and Stewie, because I feel like that was somewhat needed. And that brings me to my other gripe, the relation between the dog and the baby. Remember how right before that banger of a song, Stewie admitted that he had a little fun? I kinda don't buy that. For the majority of the adventure, Stewie had really not been having a good time, and was just going along with all of it just to get back home. Brian had plenty of development throughout the whole thing, and that's certainly a highlight of the episode, but Stewie for the most part just felt, well, there. If the whole thing was just about them, they could have added scenes that make the whole bond they gain at the end all the more natural. I especially would have liked moments where both were simultaneously enjoying each other's company, making that fun statement in the train make sense, you know? But I'm willing to admit that these are just minor issues since they don't really ruin the episode for me in any way. I can still watch this over and over again and never get tired of it. Hell, I rewatched this episode about 10 times just for this video and I already feel like watching it again one more time. It added a sentimental layer to a character that most likely made him more of a fan favorite afterward. It had a cross-county road trip that anyone can enjoy. It had a stupendous parody song that I can confidently say most prefer over the original. And, of course, it had a ton of jokes that only a show like Family Guy could make just for the sake of a good laugh.